Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at this Craftsman T140 riding mower. This is one we purchased to resale. We'll resell it come the spring, but the steering on it will only turn so far one way. To the left it goes perfectly fine, but to the right it barely turns. I see this a lot along with loose steering and some other drag link issues very often on this type of setup. This is made by MTD. It's exactly the same design as the Cub Cadet, the Bilt, the Yard Machines, the Yard Man. Anything made by Cub Cadet that looks like this machine is going to be exactly the same diagnostic and repair process. I'll show you how to get this taken care of coming right up. Don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons as we go along if you enjoy the content. I'm going to take off the hood just for ease of access. I've already got the headlights out of the holders, and lo and behold, as I have the hood off, I've got the engine out too. I had to replace the camshaft in it. Imagine that. Briggs engine that had a bad camshaft. Don't see many of those. But we can see everything now, and even if we couldn't, we'll be focusing on this area here. Even with the engine, you can still see this, but I think it's going to give a lot better instructional video with the engine still out. If we move the steering back and forth, we can pretty clearly see there's a bunch of movement where it's supposed to be mounted solid, right here. That's not normal. And then at the back side, there's a ton of movement in between this drag link and the steering gear selector. There's a stud, but it's just moving back and forth like crazy with a bunch of play. That's for starters. That doesn't even have anything to do with how far this will only steer one direction. When we're trying to figure out what's wrong, one of the first things I like to inspect is the gears. There shouldn't be any of them that are stripped down. They should come almost to a good point with a flat spot. If not, you'll have to replace the steering rod coming down or the gear for the steering here. I think they normally call that like a steering selector, but these look good. I don't see any issues with that. Obviously, the stud and the drag link are in pretty bad shape. We can see as we go that the bushing that the steering arm attaches to is moving quite a bit up. Shouldn't really come up at all. And if you look even closer, right here is where debris always gets into, and that debris gets stuck as we're trying to turn to the right. That debris gets stuck in between the notch and this bolt. So as we're turning, it just stops it from going in that notch any further. That's almost every single one of them I see that'll only turn one direction. That is the fix. It's just debris up under here. I'll show you how to get all this apart. We'll remove that drag link the rest of the way by unscrewing the ball joint. And it wasn't even tight. Just trying to get it out of the way for the rest of the repair. You do not have to take this off if you're not replacing it. You can just kind of inspect that and make sure that that is completely round like it should be. It's just a nut on the ball joint, and that's real loose. It should almost not move on its own. This one does, just kind of falls all over the place. We'll take the 1/2 inch lock nut, get it out of our way. Once we have it free, you can see pretty easily that that's not anywhere close to the perfect circle it's supposed to be. And then the stud on the steering gear is completely worn out, so that'll have to be replaced. To get to everything here and inspect any further for damages, we will have to take the bolt and nut out on both sides, both the left and the right. To do that, we'll have to get to it down below. To get better access down below, if you lower the deck down to number 1, we can remove the hanger bracket in front just by pulling the pin out. This pin's seen a little bit in its lifetime. You'll have to lift up slightly on the deck, and then it'll pull to to the outside. Now our deck is free. For the pulley up front, you will have to either take the keeper off that is there to get that belt off if you want to take it completely off. Otherwise, you can leave it on and just kind of leave it hang. As we jack up the front for better access, it will kind of hang there on that belt, put a little tension on it, but it will still give you that extra additional clearance as the deck stays lower. It'll drop down at least a couple inches. But if you need it completely off, take the hanger bracket off and the keeper. The keeper simply holds the belt in place on both sides. It goes in the hole here, and then on the other side, it just has a 1/2-inch bolt and washer that comes up through the frame. That's all you've got to remove. If you remove this bolt and washer that's holding it on, the thing will fall right off, and then that belt will be free also. Just take it right off the pulley. We have the underneath view of the 2 nuts we need to remove. What I'm going to do is hold on to those with a wrench and get up top, unscrew them. The right one, both on top and bottom, is going to be 1/2 inch, and the left one is going to be a 9/16. That's all there is to it. Bolt and washer. As we're back up top, we got our nut, and then our bolt that has a shoulder in it comes out. That one looks in, I don't know, could be a little better, but it's not horrible. We've got our plate. These should both be perfect circles. If they're not, you will want to replace the plate. It is marked this side up. And what do we find? Exactly where I thought we'd find it. Take it straight up, and there's also a bushing here. But we look, and we find a stick or something just completely jam-packed in there. Not supposed to be like that, quite obviously. See if I can push it through. That's what was limiting us from going any further when we were turning. Just that. Now we'll get about another inch of this gear selector, which is about another 4 inches of the wheel turning. One of the main things, of course, those gears, which do look good, but we've got to replace this because of the stud. Same thing goes for this bushing. If it's all worn out, we're going to replace it anyway since we're in here. The steering rod looks perfectly fine, steering shaft. But every time I have these opened up, I always like to replace the bottom hex bushing because they seem to go bad. And then that'll ruin your steering when it goes bad and gets worn out. Show you how to remove the bolt that holds all that in down below. To remove that bolt out of the bottom, I've done it several ways. Slap hammer works. You can use vice grips on it. That'll work sometimes. But the easiest way I've found is to actually grind both sides of that Phillips head bolt off and just use an adjustable wrench on it, a large one. Seems to be the best way to do it. If you get it to an exact size, it'll be easy with a wrench too. But using a slap hammer, as I found in one of the previous videos, it's quite humorous. The struggle is real using a slap hammer to try to get it off though. It's not ideal, and it's Loctited in there. It comes with Loctite from the factory with the bolt that goes on it. it's a difficult bolt to remove. If you don't have to, if the rest of this stuff was good and the hex bushing is actually good, we could skip doing it, but I don't like to do that. I'm sending this out. I'm going to put my warranty on it as a used item, so I want it to be perfect when it leaves the shop, and know that they're not going to have any issues with it going forward. It's also going to be a lot more difficult if you're working around everything, if you still got the engine on. But again, grinding both sides off is going to be the most ideal thing you can do and the easiest way to remove that. Again, if you're using a slap hammer, you just get up in here and you hit the bottom with it. Of course, you've got to use a pair of vice grips up top to kind of lock it in so it holds it. Now I've got a 1/2 inch. Didn't get it quite perfect. Do a little bit more. Sometimes you can get it good and a regular wrench will fit on it. That didn't work here. Get my adjustable. Still not quite flat. Not sure why. Go a little bit this way. See if I can flatten up a little. There we go. We're a little more flat than what we were. Had it angled way too much. Get on there, get a good bite. Once we have it at a point we think is solid enough where we can get a good enough bite on it, lock some Irwin vice grips. Lock that on there hard so it can't turn. There, it finally broke loose. About time. Use my, maybe not. Figured maybe I'd use it to finish the rest of the way, but it's still on there pretty tight. one of my least favorite jobs. Let's get my grips from up top. Go on there a little better. Just turning the steering wheel up top. And we're out. I do like to take the steering wheel off to adjust everything. By the end, now's a good time to pop the cap and remove the bolt. It's just a 1/2 inch. Sometimes they'll just pop right off. After that, there's a bolt and a washer. Got Loctite on it, kind of hard to come out. Sometimes they'll just pop right off. Sometimes they won't. Of course, yeah, see, that one came right off. Perfect. What I like to do is I like to confirm that that's the case, that it will come right off. Otherwise, I'll spray just down inside with some penetrating oil and let it sit while we do the rest of the process. If you want to remove the steering shaft now, basically you'll have to take the cowling and everything off and then take that support down in off. I will put a link to where we actually replace the steering shaft in the description down below, so check that out if you need to replace that shaft. Now that it's all free, we'll clean everything up. Never hurts to blow it all out, wipe it all down. It's kind of rough. I think I'm going to take just a light sandpaper and kind of clean some of that rust up. Maybe I'll just take a brass wire brush. Works just as well. You don't want to take too much off, but you do want it to be nice and smooth. This is going to be a friction area because you don't want to grease it and gather all that grass and debris that gets in these areas. And pull the steering shaft out. We've got our bushing. These usually oblong, and that's what happens. Almost always the issue if you're getting a bunch of play in your steering gear. That one doesn't look too bad, but I do want to get all that dirt out while we're here. Get it nice and clean. Now, if where the bushing mounts to is oblong or it's got some scratches or it's in bad shape, you will replace that steering gear now. Or I'm sorry, the steering shaft. Let's put our new bushing down in there. They call it a bearing FLG hex. A tiny bit of grease right here doesn't hurt anything, but other than that, you don't want to grease anything at all. Again, there shouldn't really be any play back and forth. There's not. We're in good shape, and it should fit good down in the hex at the bottom too, where this all lines up. Get a little bit more of that off. It's still kind of dirty right there. Perfect. And it fits down in solid. That fits down. We can put everything back at the bottom, but I'm going to do everything else first up top. And replace our gear assembly with the new stud that's in good shape. It's going to go right here. Going to put our new shoulder screw in once we get the top back on. Then we've got the new spacer, is what they call it, for in the middle. Same thing on this side of the cover. Clean it all up. You don't want any of that rust. I'm going to do that off camera. I don't want that down on those new parts. Just clean it up good. You want that to slide easily. Okay, nice and clean. Back on just like such. And we're replacing this just because the other one was super rusty. Didn't really like it. It does come with Loctite on a new one. If you're still using your old one, you can use some Loctite on it. We've got our washer and bolt that comes in from below. We should be taking that out from below. Put our 9/16 head nut on. We'll tighten that down good. I've already got the other one in the other hole, so it doesn't matter if I tighten it down. Perfect. And our 1/2 inch on the other side. And that's the one that on the bottom has a lock nut. Okay. As I move the steering gear, it moves perfectly all the way from one side to the other. And I did tighten that down completely just because it has a lock nut. Don't be fooled. You want that nice and tight. I'm really not sure why they didn't make this just a little bit bigger. That way it would actually cover these holes. If it did, you wouldn't get all that stuff in there and cause this problem. I was going to put that bolt down in below. We'll do that here in just a second. The drag link we're going to replace. I have not done anything to the other end with the ball joint yet. And again, even though that's a lock nut, don't worry about tightening it down halfway or anything. It needs to be completely tight when we're finished. It's all good. And there will be play up and down. That's perfectly fine. You want that to happen. For the drag link, I like to just line it up to the other one. And I like to see exactly how far back it was. And I'll actually mark that on the other. Didn't work well. I'm going to mark exactly where that other one comes back to. That's where I want my nut, and that's where I'm going to want my ball joint at. Put it in a vise or however you want to do it. But you've got to break free. This is in 11/16. You've got to break the ball joint free because I'm going to reuse this nut. You can get a new one if you like, but kind of silly when they want kind of large price for it. Okay. So once we're free, it'll come off easily. Just going to I'm going to screw that nut off and put it right on the other one. Again, I'm going to come right back to where that is. That's about where I want it when I put the new one on. New ball joint. You'll see that this one does have Loctite in the threads, and it's got a rubber boot that kind of keeps some of the moisture and stuff out. This is not a real particular area where it needs to be perfect or anything. So doing it just the way I did will work perfect. That's about halfway in between. Let's see. I'm looking at the markings. It's supposed to be right about there, which I'd say puts me closer to here than the other spot. Do the same thing to tighten it up. Just lock some vice grips on it real quick. Make sure it's straight down. When I do that, just how it should be, how it's going to sit, and I'm going to tighten up this nut to it. It's locked in good. Put it down in. We'll start our nut on the bottom. Not sure really why that last one was loose like that. I don't see that too terribly often. We're going to use our 9/16 on the bottom and our half on the top. Doesn't matter which one you're turning. If your wrench is too fat, when you get down to the bottom, you may pinch it in between. Tighten that down real tight. Good. You notice when we ground that down, it's in pretty bad shape. But I don't worry about this bushing. All I like to do is clean it real well. Make sure that the backside is as clean as it can be. And I reuse that. I've never had an issue. I'll probably never replace one. It's not an important piece. It's just the end cap to keep it from sliding back up. If you feel some sort of way about it, replace it, no problem. What I like to do though is I like to get a bolt that is just a grade 8, and I like to put a washer on there, and it works perfect. And then next time you have to take it off, guess what? Nice and easy to take off. I'm not sure if the original was a grade 8 or not. I am still going to use the Loctite like they use. Otherwise, it likes to come off. Oh, I thought it wasn't open. Apparently, it's been open the whole time. So we'll Loctite this up. Well, that's interesting. Looks like I have to snip the tip there. Looks like it was left open. Not sealed all the way down for me. There we go. Now I'm getting plenty. Loctite that back in there. If you don't Loctite it, it will come back out. I've seen it happen plenty of times. I've seen people tell me that they've done the steering bushing or steering rod, and it comes back, and guess what? That's what the issue is. Let's put this back in. Nice and tight. Thing works like it should. There's not a bunch of play up and down. You're always going to have some. That's how it's designed. But if it's like popping out, you may have used the wrong hex bushing. They actually make two different ones. So if you use the thin one, this one's actually the thicker one of the two. Again, I'll put a link to all these parts down in the description. We'll let our mower back down and go ahead and put the hanger bracket back on. And then I'll show you how to adjust the steering. If we took off our hanger bracket, we will want to get the bottom pulley back put in. The belt put back in the bottom pulley. And then we'll install the keeper again. I think last time I actually told you it goes in this back one. It actually goes in the frontmost one. But if you get your belt installed on that pulley, put it in there, and then put the bolt and washer up to the other one, that's how it should be sitting. It should be keeping that belt on that pulley. It shouldn't be touching anywhere either. So again, front-facing, frontmost one, and then it goes right up and screws into the top of the frame. I'm not going to do that right now, obviously, since I don't have the engine on. We will put the hanger back on. Just goes through that front notch. I do want to make sure that we still have our pivot piece. Again, you just got to slightly lift the deck when you do this. Have everything line up. Apparently just enough to hit the camera mount. Then I've got to get a different pin since that other one was in pretty bad shape. Got just a random pin I had sitting around. Throw it through. The only other thing before we finish on the steering is going to be your toe. If they're not aligned with one another, they're not straight in line, you'll look at the drag link in between the two. It's just one bar that connects the two tires. That's likely bent if you've got one tire going a different direction than the other. These should both be in line at all times. If you end up needing to replace that, there's just one pin on each side. All you've got to do is remove that, the cotter pin. It comes straight out the bottom and you put a new one in. It's very easy to replace if that's your problem. To adjust the steering wheel, all you're going to need to do, you want it right in the center. So you take that steering wheel off, make sure that your wheels are straight. This one is, the other one is also, and I like to make sure there's the same amount of play each direction. I actually got extremely lucky there. That looks just about perfect. I actually like to drive it when I do it. Obviously I can't do that without the engine in it, but normally that's what I'll do. I'll actually take it for a drive without the bolt in, and I'll keep moving it as needed. I always like to anti-seize this before finishing up. So same amount of play each direction. And that's kind of just before the wheels start moving. You can feel where the wheels are going to start turning at, as long as they're straight, and you can see where each one's going to turn at. That's what I like to do. That's why I like to do it when I'm driving. It seems a little bit more accurate. See here, I think I'm just a hair to the left. Try to move it one notch. It's hard to just move one notch, even if it's on those little splines, but we're looking real good right there, I think. Right about centered. That's where you want it. You can put your bolt back in. I'm actually not going to install this bolt completely because I really like to do it as I am driving it. It just, to me, seems to get a little bit more even. As you're driving it, you can kind of feel where that middle spot is and then bolt it back down. Not too terrible of a repair, except for, of course, that pesky bolt in the steering shaft. Seems to get me every time, no matter what I do. Share your tips for getting that out down below. I'd love to hear how everyone else does it. For me, I just dread doing it every time, just because it seems like it's difficult on different levels each and every time. Sometimes I'll have an easy one here and there, but normally I have to kind of struggle with it like that. I will try to put a video up of me driving it here shortly, as long as I can get that done, get everything put in by the time the video needs to be posted. We can turn right all the way now. We can turn left all the way now. this thing should steer just great. For those of you that don't know, I was just kind of kidding around about the Briggs & Stratton compression release issue. We see it all the time, obviously dozens and dozens of times a year. This one was no different. Probably why the guy sold it to us. The compression release failed, but he was already having issues with the steering at some point anyway, so he probably just wanted to get out from under it. But a repair that's great for when we start to slow down, to be able to invest that time and a little bit of money into getting something fixed and making good profit. So thanks for watching, guys. If I helped you out, don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons. Have a great rest of your day, and thanks again for watching.